Thank you for being here. It is Summer Wednesday. I'm really glad you're here tonight because I've got something really special for you. I don't know if you were watching, I don't even know how many weeks ago, probably like a month and a half or so ago. I did an interview with a couple of guys who did something that I think the rest of us might not do. They ran into a burning house and they rescued a woman. It's just not the same story that you think you've heard before, though. They rescued a burning woman who was also almost about to die because she had been beaten and stabbed, doused with gasoline, and set on fire in her own home, allegedly by her own husband, the father of her own children. And these guys just burst in and saved her. At great risk to themselves, they saved her, and she is alive today. That is the picture right there of her recovering in a hospital bed. And each time we get a picture, it's better. There she is with her, like, coffee for Dunkin'. I think it's a Dunkin'. She's, like, sitting up in bed, smiling. 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 Just a matter of weeks after nearly dying at the hands, allegedly, of her own husband in one of the most despicable, violent ways, in front of those little boys. Tonight, she is finally able to speak to us. And she is talking. And it is something else to hear her. With her mom at her bedside, who is also talking. But that's not the only thing that's happening. We're reuniting her with those neighbors that rescued her. And wait until you hear the dynamic between them. Can't even tell you. All right, so don't go anywhere. You've got to see that. And then also, you can't say the name Scott Peterson without everybody sort of like, what's happening with him now, right? Kind of what's the update? I keep hearing about maybe a new trial, an Innocence Project, what's happening? All that, yes, is happening. Potentially a new trial if the Innocence Project gets its way. But he is also talking for the first time since he was arrested and thrown in jail for the murder of his wife and unborn son. He's talking on camera. First TV interview in 2 decades. I cannot believe it. What's he going to say? Because the word is, it's shocking and revelatory and a lot. That's Mark Garagos sitting beside him. And I know you know him from this show, right? He's a lot grayer now, a few more wrinkles. Me too. It's been a long time since Garagos was his attorney at trial. But he's on tonight to talk about this brand new television interview, 21 years since we've heard from Scott Peterson. That's coming. Also, if I say the word squatters, how much rage does that sort of instill? Because for me, I kind of like, top of my head just pops right off. I can't stand them. And yet, for some unknown reason, they seem to be getting traction across our country. And I don't get it. Why do they have more rights than we do? Why? Why is it so hard to get rid of these, like, cockroaches? Why? They seem to have more rights, right? Or do they? Because there is like a new sheriff in town. He is a squatter hunter. Look at this guy. Holy cow. Like, let's say you're a squatter and this guy shows up. Yeah, apparently they don't hold all the cards. Apparently they really don't. Apparently this squatter hunter can scare them right the hell out. He's going to talk to us tonight. He's got a new TV show potentially coming as well. I cannot wait to hear how he does it, but he does it. He vamooses them. That's coming. Okay. On this program, if you're a regular watcher, thank you, we do not deal in miracles. We don't. But we're big on heroes. We're huge on human resilience and sheer determination, especially when it's in the face of incredible odds. And all of those things come together in the hellish ordeal that was inflicted on Tessa Trotter. On the night of July 1st, 1 month and 1 week ago, Tessa was stabbed 9 times in the neck, in the chest, in her back. It all happened in her own home near Nashville. She was punched in the face 30 times, and then she was doused with gasoline and set on fire. All by one attacker, allegedly Zachary Mowell, the husband that Tessa was in the process of divorcing. And all of this hell unleashed in front of the couple's two little children, little boys, aged 5 and 8. Look at them. Tiny. Those kids were horrified. They were terrified. They pleaded with their father, and I will quote, not to kill mommy. Investigators say Mowell admitted to everything, telling the first arriving officers, quote, I did it. It was me. So now he's locked up. He's charged with attempted murder. He's charged with aggravated arson, aggravated assault, domestic assault. And what would you guess the bail would be, right? You'd probably think, wow, it's got to be hundreds of thousands. Oh, it is. It's many, many hundreds of thousands. It is $750,000. And I call your attention to that charge, attempted. Mowell was charged with attempted murder because Tessa Trotter survived the attack. And she survived because of two people she did not even know. Neighbors. Neighbors who looked at the house, they saw something weird, they noticed smoke, and they raced to put out the fire. And when they were in there trying to put out the fire, they saw Tessa burning, and they dragged her battered body to safety. Tessa is still in a Tennessee hospital after several operations, and doctors do say that it is unlikely she will ever walk again. But Tessa is alive. She is alive to be a mom to those traumatized little boys. And earlier I had the chance to speak with Tessa and her mom, Tina Trotter, from Tessa's hospital bed. It was Tessa's very first interview, and here's some of our conversation. Do you have many memories of what happened to you, of that attack?
I have. I remember everything from the attack.
You remember everything. Have you been able to recount all of that to the police?
Right now, I haven't talked to the police about it. I'm supposed to soon.
Can you tell me what you remember from that day?
I remember I just got home from work, and I was going to take my boys to my sister's house. And I could tell he was upset when I got home. And the first thing he did, he just grabbed me by the arm and he just stabbed me right in the back. And I just went straight limp on the floor.
And what happened next?
He picked me up and laid me across his lap. And that's when he just started punching me in the face. And I sat there and just counted. And my boys are right at the front door. And he just started stabbing me again in the sides. And then in the throat. And that's when I held onto my throat. And I remember my boys are just at the door and I'm yelling for my Otis to go outside. And just yell for 911. And he told him not to go outside.
He told them to stay where he could see, those children could see what was happening.
Yeah, he told them to stay while they're screaming, please don't kill mommy. Please, daddy, stop stabbing mommy.
What eventually happened after that moment?
He brought me to the kitchen, and that's when he stabbed me a couple more times. I remember he stabbed me the one time right in the throat. That's when I'm just holding on. And he threw me kind of in the floor. And that's when he asked for my phone. And I guess that's when he texted my sister that I was on the way to her house. And he poured gasoline all over the side of my body. And he kept telling me, you're going to die in this house.
Where were the boys at this point?
I'm guessing the boys at this point, he put them in his trunk already because I didn't see them, but he was still inside, and that's when he lit me on fire first, and he watched me burn. He watched me, and that's when he drew a line of gasoline out of the house, and he lit it on fire.
And he stood and watched?
Yeah, he stood and watched me and kept telling me I was going to die in this house slowly.
Tessa, did you believe at that moment you were going to die right there?
I did. I thought that was it. And the only thing I was thinking about were my boys. Like, what would happen to them?
Do the boys know any of this, what happened after they were taken out of the house and put in the car? Do they know any of these other details?
They knew that he caught me on fire, that he burned my legs. They know that. They saw the burn.
What else have you been able to explain to them? What else have you been able to say to them in the wake of all of this?
Just other than just mommy's going to get stronger and mommy will be home.
Have the children asked any questions that you are able to answer or that you aren't able to answer?
No, they haven't. They haven't asked any.
Have they asked where their dad is?
They know. They knew from the straight that he was in jail, and they knew why.
Have they indicated at all that they ever want to see him again?
No, they don't even say his name. They don't even call him Dad. They just say he. Sometimes they do say monster.
They call him a monster.
Yes, they do.
Tessa, do you have any idea what set him off that day?
I have no clue. Like, we've been together 9 years, and he never had any physical abuse towards me, other than, like, mentally, but I don't know. I know I asked him for a divorce 2 months prior, but I would have never thought he'd do this.
And he'd never been physically abusive before this unbelievable, unspeakable event?
No. He's never showed any signs, never raised his hand, never did any of that.
Have you had any opportunity or any will at all to speak with him since this happened?
At first, I wanted to know why he did this, but now I don't want to see him. I don't want to talk to him. He's not part. He's more than dead to me now.
Tina, it's just remarkable to hear what your daughter Tessa has been through, and you are stalwart. I mean, you have been an incredible support to her. How did you find out, and when did you find out what had happened that day?
Well, like she said, we was going to her twin sister's house to visit my granddaughter. And Tessa was supposed to bring the boys. That was the plan, and he knew that. And I went on to her twin sister Tori's house, and me and Tori waited, and we waited. And then Tori got the text saying on the way, and her twin knew there was something wrong. And so we waited about 40 minutes or something like that. And I said, well, I'm going to go down the street. And I pulled up on it. And she was already life-flighted.
She had already been life-flighted.
Yeah, by the time I got there, yes.
How did you find out the details of what had happened?
Tessa, when I went,
Tessa told you herself what had happened?
told me everything. She remembers everything. Everything from her seeing the knives in his pocket, from her seeing the brand new gasoline can on the counter. She told me when I first seen her, when I got to Vanderbilt, she said, she looked at me, she said, "He tried to kill me, Mama. I thought I was going to die." And she continues to tell me she remembers.
You've been by Tessa's bedside since the beginning, and you've been watching her recovery. Seeing you both today is such a surprise because I saw you a few weeks ago, and Tessa was really struggling. But you must be so proud of her recovery.
Yeah, she's remarkable. She's remarkable. We have a lot of family support, not only myself, but her twin, then her older sister and her brother. But she's pushing herself forward. She wants to be home with her boys.
Tina, did you ever have a feeling that her now ex, her estranged husband, could have done anything like this or could have been violent in any way with her? Did you ever have a red flag? Did you see a red flag? Have a sneaking suspicion? Anything?
Never.
Was he ever emotionally abusive with Tessa?
She would tell me stuff, but he would never show it in front of me. He was a different person in front of us, the family. She always told me he was manipulative, but we never seen it.
So something happened just the other day, and it's certainly a wonderful sign. It's back to school time, and your boys went back to school for their first day, Tessa, and you were able to, quote unquote, accompany them by Zoom. Tell me about the process of basically taking your kids to school via the cell phone.
I loved it. Like, they loved it. I was there for them, and they just loved carrying me around. And it was amazing. Like, I was still there for them for the first day. I was there for support, and they just had a blast with it.
Well, the picture is terrific. I mean, the kids look great, and there you were. Even if virtually you were at least, you're here. You're here with us today. You've survived, and you've survived, and you've recovered remarkably. And I dare say that a lot of this may not have been possible if it were not for two good Samaritans, your neighbor, who rushed in and rescued you, dragged you out of this house. And hold that thought, because we have to take a quick break. But when we come back, that emotional reunion between Tessa and those two good Samaritan neighbors who pulled her battered body out of her burning house.
You're a part of my life now. I can't say thank you enough. I'm beyond grateful.
Before the break, I spoke with Tessa Trotter and her mom, Tina. On July 1st, Tessa was stabbed and beaten and burned alive by her own husband, allegedly. He's the father of their two children, and that vicious attack happened right in front of those two little boys, just 5 and 8 years old. Weeks later, Tessa is still in the burn unit of a Tennessee hospital, and doctors say that she may never walk again, but she's alive. And she's alive thanks to two strangers, neighbors whom she'd never met, two men who saw her house on fire, rushed into action, went right into that burning house, and then pulled her burning body to safety. And earlier today, we reunited Tessa with Ralph and Clay Grayson for the first time since that heroic rescue. And I want you to see what it was like. I dare say that a lot of this may not have been possible if it were not for two good Samaritans, your neighbor, who rushed in and rescued you, dragged you out of this house, Ralph Grayson and his son Clay. And Tessa, they're here with us right now. And this is the first opportunity that you've been able to see them and they've been able to see you. And Tessa, I wanted to give you an opportunity to say hello to Ralph and Clay at this time.
Hello. I give you you're a part of my life now. I can't say thank you enough. I'm beyond grateful. I would not be here if it wasn't for y'all. I remember when y'all came, when that door came open, and before that, I laid there for the sleep. You'll save me.
Ralph and Clay, this is an amazing moment. This is your first opportunity to see Tessa. I know you saw her mom, Tina, but is there something that you want to say to Tessa now that you've had a chance to open up the lines?
I'm glad you've done as good as you've done, provided what you went through. I don't really know much else, it's a little, strong right now, hearing her story and what she actually went through before I got to her. I'm glad that you have a chance to be in your boy's life, and I'm glad you're making the recovery you're making. And whenever you come home or get out of the hospital, we can sure have something to do with one another. As far,
Tina, I know this is a really important moment for you as well. Did you want to say something to Ralph and to Clay?
I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, for my family, to yours. We are so thankful you were God sent to be there. My daughter wouldn't be here today. And she's my youngest, she's my baby girl. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Ralph, did you want to add something?
Well, I just want to say I'm glad you're doing as good as you are, and I'm praying every day that you get better and better each day. And anything you need for the boys, if there's anything we can do, please let us know. If there's anything you need, please let us know. We're around
All the time.
and we'll do whatever we can to try to help you do whatever you need us to do.
Thank you.
I'm ever grateful for you.
Thank you.
This is pretty remarkable that we have a mom and her daughter, and we have a father and his son. And but for you two, that mom and daughter might not be in this position right now. So I just want to make note of how remarkable this moment is and how special you are. I know I've talked to you before, Ralph and Clay, and I know I told you you're heroes and you don't believe it, but now that you get to see Tessa and see that she's going to be okay, you have to feel that you're heroes. You just have to.
It does hit a little differently today talking to her. It does. Again, just being able to see her for the first time. I think when she worked at Walmart, I saw her maybe once or twice, but I've always seen her from across the street. But seeing her this close up and knowing how close we were that day, it's a connection, I don't know, that you can't really explain. It just is what it is. I mean,
You're neighbors, but you're now really family, right, Ralph?
Yes. I believe we are. We were put there by a higher power than us, and he's in charge. And that's all I can say about it.
There is a higher power in charge, but there is also a process ahead, and that is to make sure that that he is punished appropriately for this. And Clay, you were there in the early offings of the first court hearing. You may be asked to go back and testify at trial. And I'm just wondering how you're thinking ahead to that and if you're prepared for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just as much as I was prepared when I got the first phone call from them to be there for her. So, yeah, I'm prepared to go all the way.
Well, I just personally want to thank you again, both of you, for everything that you've done and for today, for offering your love and support to Tessa and to her mom, Tina. And to you, Tessa, and to Tina, I wish you the best. Tessa, we are behind you 100% of the way, and we are looking forward to that moment where you are out of that bed and snuggling those boys and on the road to better days ahead. I can't thank you enough. Tessa Trotter, Tina Trotter, and Ralph Grayson and Clay Clayson, thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We cover a lot of dark subject matter on this show, and this story was no different, but it's endings like this with neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping strangers, that reminds us how important compassion and kindness are in this world. And I hope we all just take a page from Ralph and Clay's book, and that we all look out for one another. If you know someone, or if you might be the victim of domestic violence, there are people standing by who want to help you. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. I always encourage you to take a photo of your screen so that you have the information at the ready and maybe also in the future. I have to take a quick break right now, but coming up next, this question is on our minds again. Scott Peterson murder his wife Lacey and their unborn baby back in 2002? It's not a random question. It isn't. Because the legal wheels are turning to try to get Scott a new trial. And we'll soon get to hear his side of the story in his very first on-camera TV interview in more than 20 years. Scott Peterson's words and his one-time trial attorney, the legendary Mark Garagos. Next. Say the name Scott Peterson in the true crime arena, and you will get a lively discussion of did he or didn't he do it? And by that I mean, did Scott Peterson murder his wife Lacey and his unborn son named Connor back in 2002? In 2004, a jury found him guilty of both murders and sent him to prison, where he sits right now, trying desperately to win a new trial. And for all that time, he has avoided any on-camera television interviews until now. The NBC streaming service, Peacock, is about to launch a docuseries that they say features Peterson's only face-to-face TV interview since his arrest.
I believe my brother-in-law, Scott, has been wrongfully convicted of that murder. He's been in prison since April of 2003. Scott has not spoken on camera about the case in those 21 years.
Why should anyone care about what you have to say 20 years later?
The deeper you get into this case, the more questions you have.
I can't wait. The series is called Face to Face with Scott Peterson. It premieres later this month on Peacock, and I want to bring in Mark Garagos, legendary defense attorney, yes, but also friend of this program, and maybe most importantly, he represented Scott Peterson all those years ago. Garagos, trailer doesn't give away much. Do you know anything? Can you spill some tea?
You know, when you called me and said, come on tonight, I called up Shireen, who did this, and tried to cross-examine her into giving me more, and she didn't give me a whole lot. All I know is it is true. promo or teaser that you have that I don't know, other than him speaking in court on the remote for the LA Innocence Project. I don't know of him doing anything publicly since the trial itself.
I was so curious about that. I suppose I get it because he's been fighting it, right, for 2 decades plus. He's been struggling for appeals and, winning some, losing some all the way along. And as an attorney, you usually tell your client don't talk at all. Did you ever counsel him not to give any interviews? And did you keep that counsel going?
I don't want to reveal attorney-client, but I think that we publicly said during the trial some 20 years ago, hard to believe it's been that long, that was not the first trial and unfortunately not the last that I've had a client, before I represent them, sit down with a interviewer, and for some reason it always seemed to be ABC, and do an interview, and it cuts both ways. I've had cases, famously, it wasn't my case, but a case that you may remember, Robert Blake, and he did an interview with ABC, and that was later played at his trial. I believe that's why he was acquitted and did not have to take the stand. Susan McDougal, who I represented in the 90s, she did an ABC interview. They played that, and that actually worked to her benefit because she looked so good in that interview, and then when they played the interview during the trial, you looked at her and you saw how much she had aged because of the ordeal she'd been through. Scott was a completely different situation. That interview with Scott, because it was not in context and taken out of context, it was an uphill battle, and you combine that with the Amber tapes, and it was a very heavy lift back then because of the prejudgment, of guilt. Now, however, as you mentioned, he's had the California Supreme Court reverse the death penalty.
Yeah, I was going to say, most defendants aren't good. They're not television savvy, and the interviewers can really sink them. I think you judge it case by case, but there are very few people who are good on the stand and on, in the Klieg lights of a TV interview. Real quickly, an insider who's seen the videos, the interview on camera says this. It is, quote, shocking. It is, quote, chilling. And another quote, it may change a lot of minds about Scott Peterson's guilt or innocence. And so to that, I ask, well, why would he wait 21 years then? If he's looking for, a jury out there in a new trial that will be sympathetic, why wait so long?
Well, remember what's happened. I was just saying, he got the California Supreme Court. He finally worked his way up there through the good work of Cliff Gardner, got the court to reverse the penalty phase. They did not reverse the guilt phase, but they did say you get to have a hearing. He had a hearing. He didn't win it. He then files what's called a habeas. He's gotten some traction on that, both through his filing and through the LA Innocence Project. You're now at a point where he also has done remote appearances. It's kind of a post-COVID invention. And people have seen him at least zooming in to the courtroom. So if he was ever going to do it, now would be the time to keep up the momentum. He's got some DNA testing to do. I think he's got a whale of a habeas case, meaning he's got new evidence that was not disclosed to us in real time. And he needs to keep it up. He needs to keep the pressure on. But if the prosecution is so confident in this conviction, why are they fighting so hard against the retesting of all of the evidence?
I find it fascinating. And so when this thing drops at the end of the month, I'm calling you back. Thanks for being on tonight, Gergo. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you, too. Thanks, Ashleigh.
Okay, Mark will be back. You can mark my words. Meantime, they are the scourge of Airbnb hosts everywhere. Squatters who take over apartments and homes and refuse to leave, claiming they have rights. Here's the weird thing. They do. They do have rights. But now the rightful owners have Flash. Flash Shelton, the squatter evictor.
I am taking over this property. I am leasing this property, and I'm moving my crew in, and we're going to turn it into a reality show if we need to and put cameras up everywhere.
Flash is going to join me live next with all his secrets and how he actually gets them out. It's next.
movements. Report fevers, stiff muscles, or problems thinking, as these may be life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
Take control by asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
If you own a home and know you have homeowners insurance, right, you're insured against fire and theft and natural disasters, plumbing disasters, but are you insured against squatters? Even if it were available, and I doubt it is, it would be a hell of an investment these days, given what these leeches seem to be doing all over the country. We brought you a couple of these maddening stories before. Spongy trespassers who help themselves to other people's homes with the law seemingly on their side. Remember the Airbnb guest from hell who wanted $100,000 to relocate from an LA dentist's guest house after she'd parked herself there for a year and a half? My next guest is probably glad there isn't squatter insurance. He's not a squatter, but he makes his living sending them packing, and not always gently. His name is Flash Shelton.
Hey, Alva. What do you have to say for yourself? You going to talk to me now?
At 9 o'clock in the night, you want to talk?
Yeah,
have a civil conversation?
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock in the night? Are you serious?
You're avoiding.
You're crazy.
How do you feel? How do you take advantage? How do you pose as a caregiver and take advantage of an old lady like this?
Sorry, my stuff's here, dude.
Yeah, your stuff is here. We're going to help you move it out today. And it all has to be out before I leave. I've got guys scheduled to come take the stuff out later today. So either you take it out or I have to take it out and put it out on the driveway until it gets picked up. How you doing, man?
Good.
I wanted to talk to you.
Okay, who are you?
My name is Flash, and I understand you've been squatting at this residence?
No.
No?
No, I have a lease.
You have a lease?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you mind if we sit and talk a little bit?
Sure.
My goal right now today is to get you out of this house.
Okay. Well,
I am taking over this property. I am leasing this property, and I'm moving my crew in, and we're going to turn it into a reality show if we need to and put cameras up everywhere.
Flash doesn't just rely on his winning personality. He comes armed with pepper spray, a stun gun, a steel baton, a body cam, and occasionally his Glock 26. He has grateful clients everywhere, and now he's got a deal to turn his adventures into a real TV show. And Flash Shelton joins me now live. Flash, it's great to see you, and thank you, Jesus, that you exist. I still can't understand why it takes a Flash Shelton to get these leeches out of these properties. But what is it that you do that the rest of us, through the civil process or anything else, can't seem to get done?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me. And that's the crazy thing about this is it doesn't make sense and it shouldn't make sense to anybody. So, yeah, I mean, I obviously had to learn as a victim, and I'm just using the same rights that they have against them.
So, but, you're kind of a big guy and you're dressed in Kevlar and you look menacing, like you look scary. If I was squatting, I'd hightail it out the back door if you were coming. Do you think a lot of these people leave because they are scared and they maybe don't know that, you might be able to rough them up? But the truth is they've got these crazy rights that just frustrate us all. But just enough, it's just scary enough to have you come through the door that they leave?
Well, I'm sure the intimidation might have something to do with it. And, we're prepared and we're covering all the angles. We're making sure that we're safe. We're trying to catch them off guard. The most important thing for me is, I would rather catch them outside than in the house where they can barricade themselves. So if I catch them off guard, it increases my chances of success.
So have you come to blows with any of them? Has it gotten kind of scary? And I know you always go to law enforcement first so they know what you're up to, but has it gotten a bit sketchy?
No, it has not at all. I carry things in preparation, but it has never come to that. I try to do the research I can, find out who they are, and if there's a situation where I think that it could get violent, I make sure that law enforcement is on scene prior. I meet with the department. We go over a plan. We come up with, basically our options and know what we're going to do and talk about the squatters ahead of time.
I love the fact that you show up often with a lease, and then you also have that added threat. You want to be on a reality show or be all over social media? Might be enough to get some of them packing. Flash, I look forward to the show. Thanks for being on tonight. Really enjoyed it. And thanks for doing what you're doing on behalf of America.
Well, thank you. All right. See you next time.
Flash Shelton joining us live. We're going to continue following what Flash is up to and update you as well. Coming up next, a missing person mystery takes another mysterious turn. Tiffany McClure disappeared from her California home 2 weeks ago. Tonight we have an update, but it's one that leaves us even more mystified. Got the details after the break. This is the part of true crime reporting that's tough for families, tough for police, and tough for the reporters who cover it too. It's a follow-up tonight on a mysterious case with news that nobody wanted to hear, and yet everybody feared. It's about Tiffany McClure, 47-year-old mom from Tulare, California, last seen July 22nd. Her car turned up a couple of hours away at the beach, but there were zero signs of Tiffany. Today we learned that Tiffany McClure's body was found 2 days ago, exactly 2 weeks after she vanished in the waters off of San Luis Obispo. It's about 120 miles from Tiffany's home. Her cause of death hasn't yet been determined. Tiffany's very worried cousin, Kristen, was a guest on this show a few days ago and told Brian Enton that police at the time were stumped.
The car was actually found, it was parked in Morro Bay at an intersection that is a residential area. You can actually see houses and then it dead ends to the beach, but it was legally parked. That was their words, legally parked. Her purse was in the car, which I find unusual as a woman. You don't go anywhere without your purse. But they said that nothing suggested foul play. That was the words that were used. Nothing to suggest foul play.
Tiffany McClure was married but separated from her husband and had a daughter in college on the East Coast. Finding Tiffany's body does not solve the mystery of what happened to her, but we are watching to find out more when they find out more. That is it for us tonight. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Stay tuned. Cuomo's next.
Hey, everybody. I am Chris Cuomo. Thank you for joining me here on NewsNation. The Harris Walls team is at another enthusiastic rally in Detroit. If something super interesting happens, I'll go to it. But I have some food for thought for you, okay? With Governor Walz being picked, there's all this yap about who's going to win. Who wins this election is not the right question right now. What will decide this election? That is the key question. And I think it comes down to independent voters and what they are willing to pinch their nose for. A bad man or potentially bad policies. Now, both of those conditions, one that's bad for the right, one that's bad for the left, can be argued.